I think what brings it all together is just this idea that a lot of consumer segments and even other areas of the ecosystem, like underbanked and small businesses, are looking for ways in which they can get access to controlled credit.
So welcome back, everybody. I'm happy to have David Javitch, VP of Product Management at Mastercard Installments, with us today. Thank you so much for joining me, David.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Of course. David, let's start off with you really quick. And can you please tell us about your background and what it is exactly you do at Mastercard?
Sure. So currently I'm in our North America product team, and my group looks after everything we do related to installments in the market. That means, working with our customers and partners to both develop and commercialize various forms of installment products. I've been with Mastercard for just about 10 years, actually. So I've been working in this space for the last few years.
So talking about Mastercard Installments, David, can you tell us more about the history around Mastercard and the history with installments?
Sure. So, obviously as a company, we're always, looking to provide consumers and merchants with more choice and control and simplicity in various forms of payments. Installments is definitely very important part of that, right? Especially as the last 4 or 5 years, it's really become an important part of the payment mix for consumers. So we've been focused on how we can sort of use the power of our network assets, especially with our acceptance footprint and some of our value-added services, to help customers bring different installments use cases to market more easily. So a few years ago, we launched our first Mastercard Installments program, which was really meant to help banks and fintechs bring different kinds of buy now, pay later installment products to market, leveraging our network. So since then, we've introduced a few other programs for different use cases, whether it's helping to facilitate a new loan origination at checkouts, or more recently displaying credit card attached installments at the point of sale. So really just trying to work with the market and understand their needs and bringing different ways in which we can help accelerate those use cases.
That's quite interesting. So maybe we'll keep build on that a little bit. What is the latest innovation Mastercard is working on within the world of installments?
Recently we announced our Mastercard One Credential, which is a really interesting initiative. It sort of expands on the idea of flexibility and really brings that together in a functional kind of product. So the idea is that you have a single credential as a consumer, and you can use that for different ways to pay, right? So like you would have the ability to go into a digital app, for example, create some simple settings, and have one card that can access different forms of payment. So a simple example would be you might go in and set up so that your everyday daily expenses under $100 get debited from your checking account, just like a standard debit transaction. And then you might be able to place occasional larger purchases on an installment plan. So something comes up and you need to make a purchase on that same card of a few $100s. Now you can go in and change those preferences in the app to get access to a short-term form of credit to make that purchase. So it's really an interesting way of sort of combining and bringing together a lot of different ways that consumers are already paying and just bringing it together into one experience.
And so that's interesting. Talking about experiences and use cases, can you maybe talk to us a little bit more about the use cases that you're seeing more recently, maybe around that credential and, of course, installments?
Yeah, I think what brings it all together is just this idea that a lot of consumer segments and even other areas of the ecosystem, like underbanked and small businesses, are looking for ways in which they can get access to controlled credit, right? It's they don't might not need always a revolving line of credit. Something comes up that they might need to put it on more of a controlled, installment plan like this. And, that provides also sort of a lower level of commitment from the issuer, the lender, and the consumer, right? So now they have the ability to say, okay, I'm going to give you access to, $500, $2,000 for a specific term. I'm going to work with you on evaluating the repayment schedule on that line. And it helps, both the bank and the consumer to sort of build credit responsibly building up that history to repay that form of credit. And then it allows them to build a relationship. And so as other future milestones come up, so whether they need to, finance a new car or, get a mortgage from the same bank, it allows them to build that up. And so we're really hearing it as sort of an important way to bridge the gap for a lot of our customers. So, regardless of sort of the form factor that it takes, that's really the type of strategy that we're hearing from a lot of our customers.
Interesting. So a lot of this sounds like adoption. So talking about adoption, how do you collaborate with partners to actually drive adoption?
Obviously, we structure these programs, we identify these different use cases. Our role is to bring trust and transparency into the ecosystem, do that through these different Mastercard programs. But then that really allows our customers and allows us to work with our customers to create great experiences. A lot of the cases are digital first experiences. That's really what consumers expect, right? Is like how to do this in a really sort of friction-free way. So, we're working on, how we can tap into our acceptance network and, all the great relationships that we have with merchants. So, now this type of payments can be accessible to the entire sort of acceptance ecosystem, whether it's, a large national chain or a small local business. We're trying to help the ecosystem benefit from these types of installment payments, because at the end of the day, it is giving a large set of customers access to credit, and it is helping the merchant to drive sales. We're seeing ticket sizes, even just for a standard pay in 4 type of transaction, that's $180, $200, which is significantly higher from a debit or even a credit transaction. So really just trying to bring all the players together to create value for the whole ecosystem.
And what is Mastercard's outlook on the state of digital payments as consumer expectations continue to evolve?
It's continuation of the trends over the past few years, right? We know people, especially the younger generation, are looking for more personalization and control in the world of payments. Some recent research that we did, we saw that about 65% want to manage their finances in one place, online, in some kind of app environment. And when it comes to installments, almost 75% of credit card users saying they would prefer a card that actually came with an installment plan functionality, something that gave them that flexibility. So, we really think that installments is one of the important sort of pillars to creating that kind of experience for consumers. And this kind of, again, the structured credit, it allows them to build that financial well-being. So, we're continuing to see the market grow, and installments are buy now, pay later. eMarketer put out the report late last year that there was over 90 billion in spend and almost a 22% increase year over year. Right, so it's continuing to grow, and it's not just growing in sort of the ways that it was in the very beginning. It's sort of expanding into different use cases and different segments, which is very exciting.
So maybe just for the closer, David, how can merchants and banks use both Mastercard installments and a platform like ChargeAfter to improve their business?
It is still a very new area for a lot of customers. So it does require sort of some new infrastructure. Again, while we can put together the right framework and bring acceptance to the table, we value significantly the partnerships with companies like ChargeAfter, who can help deliver on the experience, right, and actually execute on this promise in a way that is more seamless to the consumer, focuses on the last mile into the merchant, for example, provides, importantly, the subject matter expertise on how to deliver that, what is successful. And at the end of the day, we just want to help our customers get to market more quickly and more successfully, and that's what a partnership with ChargeAfter can do. So we definitely value everything that we're doing together on that front.
David Javitch, Vice President, Product Management, Mastercard Installments. Thank you so much for joining me today. It was really wonderful hearing everything you have to say about Mastercard Installments and the world of installments.